Nothing says holiday spirit like good old-fashioned Christmas carols. But ever since the bombs fell, you might feel like Christmas is passing you by again this year. Well, not anymore. Bring on the holiday cheer with Jonathan's post-apocalyptic Christmas carols. That's right, Christmas classics sung in the open irradiated nuclear winter wonderland surrounding you. 'Cause really, that's all that's out there. No cities, no people, just you, a laser rifle, and Jonathan's post-apocalyptic Christmas classics to ring in the spirit of Santa, if Santa's not dead out there too. With classics like Sleigh Ride, sung in the spirit in which we Fallout survivors live.
Just feel that fallout sting in you, ring, ring, ring in your face. Your hair will fall out and you'll soon be dead within days.
Forget that radioactive acid rain outside and get caught up in the post-nuclear holiday spirit.
You know Russia and Iran and China and Cuba. The UN disbanded and NATO fell through. But do you recall who fired first and nuked the rest of us all? No one knows how it started, but every government claims they do. Korea said it was their fault, except the missiles launched from Kathmandu.
Or the post-apocalyptic Christmas classic, Oh Holy Crap.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Nativity Stories.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Alternativity Stories, a month-long look at alternative stories set around the most wonderful time of year. Holy shit. This is the last Patreon podcast of the year, just for you guys. Thank you again for all your support throughout the year. Everybody who's come on board this year as well, Math and Ria and everybody else. We've lost some people, we gained some people. It all balances out. But I appreciate everybody donating what they can when they can all year. It really, really does help me. I'm struggling with my finances, so trust me, it does help. But I do try and put this money away for stuff to do with the podcast. I'm now saving for a new iPad, as this one I'm using now is obsolete, so it's only really good for me to record on, and I would like to do other stuff on, like read comics and various other things, so it would be helpful. So I'm going to try and save up for a new one, or at least take most of the majority of the money that you've given me and put towards that. So I really, really appreciate all the time and effort, and again, just sticking with me. It's not been the easiest year. I've probably said that a lot. I've had some mental health stuff, some friendships, some very close friendships have ended, unfortunately, but that is life, I guess. So you've just got to roll with those punches, and there's been a lot of punches that you've had to roll with. I've had to roll with. The world's had to roll with. It's still turning and it's still on fire. But battling my own cynicism and jaded outlook sometimes takes some doing. But you guys certainly help with that, and I've had a lot of kindnesses this week. I won a prize at work, which is a cash prize at work, which was really nice. I got a free can of Coke off a lady while I was doing my Christmas shopping, because I was literally counting my pennies to pay, and she went, you know what, just have it. So I really appreciate that, and it does kind of shake me out of, kind of woe is me attitude sometimes that I may have. Gives me a real kick up the arse. And my friend at work, he donated a prize he got to me because of kind of the struggles I've been having and stuff. So yeah, I really do appreciate that, and it does, it kicks me right up the arse and makes me realize how lucky I really am, and how truly grateful I am to be doing this, to be surviving and affording food and living. And a lot of the time this year is, it's a difficult time for everybody, and it's a high rate for suicide and seasonal depression and all that. So I am genuinely grateful, and I always have been, but sometimes I can get a bit stuck in a certain mindset. And so all the kindnesses I've been given, the times you guys have given up with your, spend time with your family, quality time, to come and talk random shit with me, I'll always be grateful. And again, I always appreciate it, because again, I do live on my own, and as much as I enjoy it, there are some downsides to that as well. As much as there are the benefits, there are some negative sides to it as well. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a very dark and genuinely a bit fucked up story today. We're going to be talking about The Last Christmas from Image Comics. So this is written by Brian Posen. You might have seen him on TV. He's a comedian. Usually plays these kind of loser characters on TV, or these ones that are slightly maybe, on the spectrum or something. He's a very funny guy. And Jerry Duggan as well. They teamed up and worked quite consistently on a run on Deadpool, which is very good. Again, I haven't read the whole run, but I read a good chunk of it, and some of the better stories. There's some quite serious and dark stories in there, and again, messed up in their own right, but there's a lot of fun and humour as well. So I do recommend that run. But again, for me, I like to dip into Deadpool, have a good laugh, and come out of it. I don't stay for long runs, but I think if you are going to slowly do a run on Deadpool, I would recommend their run. And strangely, this is with art by Rick Remender, who's more known as a comic book writer, but I actually think he's not bad here. Like, he does a real decent job with the material, and yeah, I was genuinely surprised. Now, I'm going to say this off the bat as well. This comic is almost 20 years old, and there is some language in here which may not be too PC anymore, or not particularly, let's say, mindful of certain cultures or people. However, I will say that they are actively going out of their way to be offensive. So it is like a South Park or a Drawn Together. It's not something that's kind of, I kind of don't mind that to a degree. Like, as long as they're kind of, there's a point to it, and they're going somewhere with it, and they're trying to say something maybe about society in a satirical kind of way. But yeah, so I'm going to warn you. And most of the language is actually in the introduction and the foreword, and then the behind the scenes stuff, the outro, the afterword. That's where the kind of language seems to crop up. So apart from maybe one scene in the comic where they reference Guantanamo Bay and the abuse that was done there, I think you'll probably be okay, as long as you're up for an alcoholic, foul-mouthed, deadly Santa, suicidal as well. As long as you're on board for that, and if you like those kind of shows, if you like episodes like Red Sleigh Down of South Park, where he's mowing people down, he's having his balls electrocuted, like, get ready for some like irreverent, dirty, dark humor, like, kind of gross out humor as well. But yeah, just bear in mind it is that kind of book. So with that, let's get into it. So we have Santa. He is still delivering presents to needy children, very needy children, after the apocalypse. The whole world is nuked each other. It's just a wasteland of zombies and marauders and all sorts of horrible post-apocalyptic shit going on. But there are children out there that still believe in Santa, and he still believes in his mission to make sure they get their presents when they need them. And unfortunately, he comes back home one Christmas to find the workshop, the North Pole, has been attacked by marauders and everybody is on fire. And it's just a nightmare, and Santa runs in. All the elves have been killed. Choo-choo Tommy, I think, who makes the trains, and some of the elves have been murdered. The reindeers have been, a lot of them have been killed. Rudolph's dead, and he walks in, and Mrs Klaus has been shot. And he comes face to face with a marauder who we don't get to know who that is just yet. It's a mysterious character, but he also shoots Santa in the head as well. Santa recovers, and the remaining elves who aren't dead recover this massive attack, this massive assault, and they wake up, and Santa basically says, he goes into a deep, dark depression. He says, "This is the last Christmas. I will never, ever, she was the one light in my life, my wife, so no longer will we do Christmas." And the elves are like, "But why? When are you going to," he starts getting into a drunken stupor and he doesn't wash or clothe himself. And he gets to a point where he starts trying to kill himself. So he rides his sleigh into the sky, jumps out of it, sets himself on fire, tries to hang himself with Christmas lights. Yeah, it's dark, so just be on board for that. There's a lot of dark humor, twisted humor, and it's one of those it's kind of like one of those gross out comedies, like the Seth Rogen comedies or the Judd Apatow comedies. There's a lot of that kind of style of humor, like very dirty, dark, irreverent, lots of swear words. So yeah, but it also has this kind of energy of it kind of almost celebrates the classic type of Christmas, but adds this kind of Mad Max style action and gross out zombie humor as well and stuff like that. But yeah, if you just bear in mind, just go into this book knowing this, and I think you might get some joy out of it, because it is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it, but I can see why it would turn off a lot of people. If the sanctity of Christmas means too much to you, then probably not the book for you. But I had an absolute blast with this. It's funny. I think the artwork, there's a lot of humorous visual gags and wordplay and all sorts of stuff. Some very odd characters. Like there's Gary the Snowman, who's the narrator, and basically he is a snowman who's very nice, but really actually he's kind of also deeply messed up as well. He's Santa's postman, so he delivers all the letters that they receive, but they're only receiving one letter a year now, and it's from this one child that still believes in Santa in the whole world. Everyone else has given up and stopped believing, but he still believes. And that child is the reason Santa can't die and be at rest and be with his wife. So the elves have said, right, we've had enough of this. You get yourself cleaned up. We're going to do this again. There's one child out there that still believes in you, so let's give them a jolly good Christmas. So Winky accompanies him. All the while, however, Santa has packed his sack full of murdering weapons to use on this child so he can die. So yeah, also very dark, very fucked up. And he travels there. They are shot down by marauders. One of the reindeer dies, just literally explodes everywhere. Very gruesome, very gory comic. And they are saved by the young boy who still believes in Santa, gives him a big hug, and it's like, oh, you're still here. And Santa, in the fight with these zombies and other creatures and marauders, has lost his booze, so he's starting to sober up, and he's starting to think maybe murdering a child wouldn't be very Christmassy. So yeah, he doesn't do that. So he kind of helps this commune, this group of survivors, and he meets Martin, this kind of leather rockabilly dude, and he's like, "Do you remember me, Santa?" And he's like, "No, I don't remember you. I don't give a fuck. I was usually pretty good at remembering who was good and who was bad, and now I can't really do that because he was shot in the head, so fair enough." But yeah, so and Winky, his elf who's who's like, believes in Santa. We're going to do a good thing. And he meets this very buxom, beautiful blonde woman who instantly he's attracted to, and he's like, can't really talk to her, ends up saying very dirty things when he doesn't mean to. And yeah, so there's humor there as well. But unfortunately, just as Santa is starting to kind of get out of his funk and feel like, a real human being again, or a real Santa again, feeling that Christmas spirit, he is, the young boy finds the plan that he drew out. He's like scribbled this plan out, and it's Santa, like it's like a child's drawing. It's Santa cutting the child in half with a chainsaw, which he has brought with him, and everyone realizes this, and he is basically sent packing. He's like, we don't want anything to do with you. The kid doesn't want anything to do with you, doesn't want any gifts off you. You fucked it. So this might mean that Santa will no longer exist. This might mean that the elves no longer exist. They'll cease to be, much like the Tooth Fairy after the apocalypse, since everybody's teeth sort of started falling out. And yeah, that's why she doesn't exist anymore, because people just don't care to do that. So yeah, so they journey home, but the buxom young lady, who the name is slipping her my mind at the moment, she discovers that Martin is in league with this group of zombies and this kind of zombie judge who are going to attack when the group is most vulnerable. And this is what he's been doing for a long time as a marauder. He'd come into a new group, get in there, get invested, get all the secrets, and then again help the attack and let the zombies in, and then they can kill everybody. And that is the plan. But the buxom blonde hears this and says to the young boy, you need to get Santa back. So he writes him a quick letter and sends that off to Santa. And Santa is again about to go back into his alcoholic stupor because of who he's become and what he is, and how much he's let everybody down. But then he receives the letter, and then they start gearing up, ready for a fight. So Big Eddie, who's another character in this, who's an elf, he's kind of the tough macho elf, and he decided as Santa left that if they ever get attacked again, they need to be prepared. So he's making like candy striped shotguns and kind of Christmassy style weapons. Like I think there was like exploding baubles and things like that they were using to defend themselves. So they're stocking up and getting ready, and the whole gearing up thing. Gary comes along and he's got Gary the snowman's got a big board with a nail in it, and he's like, you got to bring a motherfucking snowman along if there's going to be trouble. And again, he's quite the murderer of the group, even though he's probably the most jolly, but he's also kind of a little dim. Also, I am of Italian heritage, and there is quite a stunning kind of racial stereotype. There's an Italian elf, but again, it kind of makes me chuckle in a weird way, because he's I don't know if maybe it does feel a little bit like he's stupid, so therefore he's Italian. I don't know if any of these writers particularly are, but it struck me that the one character they make that's stupid is an Italian elf. Don't know how Italian elves work, but there you have it. But yeah, so there's a lot of kind of vibes from when me and Tony did Santa Claus versus the Nazis, but this takes it to the other end of the spectrum, the extreme end of this spectrum. Like, Santa's not a nice guy. He is, he's a horrible human being up until the end, and it does finalize with a giant kind of Mad Max style road chase kind of action sequence, which I really enjoyed. And again, I won't spoil it for you, but there's a lot of carnage and violence and gore and blood and dirty jokes and dirty limericks. So again, I'm warning you ahead of time. If you do fancy The Last Christmas, just know what you are going into. It is dark, it's disturbing, but I had a lot of fun with it. And it's, Patton Oswalt does the intro, Ed Brubaker recommends it on the back of the book, Gail Simone recommends it on the back of the book, and I'm with them. I fully enjoyed this. Again, bear in mind, it is 20 years old, but I like this kind of, again, it has this kind of Unforgiven Logan vibe, which I like. It's, the old gunslinger coming back and, doing the right thing after years of, moral greyness, let's say. And yeah, I love it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was fun. It was entertaining. It made me laugh. There's a lot of kind of puns and gags. A lot of the, even one of the issues is called Violent Night, which is much like the David Harbour film that came out. It's very inspired, kind of in that. It's very in that kind of vein. So yeah, if you like something like Violent Night, I think you would get something out of this. If you're a big post-apocalyptic fan like I am, I love my post-apocalyptic films, even the shit ones I kind of still enjoy, because I like the idea of, societies trying to rebuild themselves, or dystopian movies. And I kind of think dystopian movies are slightly different. Technically a post-apocalyptic world is a dystopia, but I see dystopian films as they have managed to rebuild a form of society. It just might not be, a workable form of society. I think there's a difference between like wasteland movies and dystopian movies, but that's just me. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but like Equilibrium, they have the whole, the world dies and they rebuild, it's the Third World War, and they rebuild and they create a new form of society. And then wasteland films, I think, are more like Mad Max, where it's just, there's not really any form of law or society or even an attempt to build something. But, it's more, there's definitely a difference for me. But that, again, that's just me. And this is kind of more the wasteland type things. We see like jokes at the expense of Canada. We see jokes at the expense of Seattle and various other kind of places and areas and people. But again, it's kind of the South Park deal and the Drawn Together deal, where everyone is fair game to be made fun of, like every single. And again, I don't mind that. And again, that's why I kind of not really offended that much by the Italian stereotype in it. Again, I'm only like an eighth Italian, so I don't know if I can even allowed to be offended by something like that. But I can see why people would have issue with the book. And again, absolutely, if it's not for you, don't read it. If it's not your bag, fair enough. I absolutely get it. So yeah, but that is it. I really enjoyed it. I had a real blast with this. I thought it was just a lot of fun, and it's charming. It's still charming. I read it a few years ago, but I think it's still bloody charming. So I highly recommend giving The Last Christmas a go. I think they brought out maybe a new reprint recently in the last year, maybe 2 or something. So give it a go. It's got lots of behind the scenes stuff. Again, watch the language and be aware of the language they may use, because the writers are intentionally being like irreverent. They're intentionally being dicks and dickheads in these intros and outros. These are not what they truly think. These are not the people that they are, but they're trying to be in line with the type of book it is. So just bear that in mind as well if you are going to read those. If not, you don't have to read them. You can stick with the main book, and I think the main book gets away from the kind of a lot of the problematic language. Not entirely, but just bear that going in. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. I think the art is really serviceable, considering Rick Remender is not necessarily an artist and not necessarily it's not necessarily his skill set. But I thought, yeah, genuinely, I thought it was really good, and it had this kind of wholesome, Rankin and Bass animated feel, yet also had the extreme kind of violence and zombies of a Romero movie. So yeah, really, really fun. I thought it was a blast. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've had a hell of a year. Lots coming up. My next Patreon podcast will be on John Carter, World of Mars, which is a prequel to the wonderful film that we covered on Disney Discussions with Mike, Megan, and Rhea. So yeah, you're going to get more of that world, that interesting lore and everything, which was probably the best thing about it, the kind of the spin-off kind of element. Everything else pretty dry, dull, and boring. But that's just me. If you like it, fair enough. But yeah, didn't hate it, didn't love it. Anyway, that is me. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. I know I will. I'm going to go see my family very soon in the next few hours. So I really, really appreciate, again, all that you do and all the money you put towards it and all the attention and the comments and the help, generally the help does help, and I'm very lucky and I'm blessed to have you as patrons as always, and I'm glad you've stuck with me this long, and you'll be continuing to stick with me, fingers crossed. But again, I do know it's a difficult time financially for everyone, so if you do need to cut back on spending, I know it's only £3 or £9 or however much you're paying. I completely understand if you need to stop it. You don't need to tell me, or I prefer if you told me, but you don't need to tell me. You don't have to explain. Just drop out, and I fully appreciate that. One of this spending is not. I've got a job. I have money coming in. It's fine, but yeah, don't feel like you have to pay for this content if you can't afford it. But I do really, really appreciate when you do. But yeah, have a happy holidays, guys, whatever you're celebrating, however you're celebrating. You're amazing, and you'll continue to be amazing all the way through 2024 and beyond. So happy new year as well. We've still got Andy's podcast to come out, but you've already got access to it, so if you want to listen to it early, but that'll be the very, very, very last podcast of the year. But again, you've already got access to that if you want to listen, but if not, listen to it on New Year's Eve if you like, but it's there whenever you want it. And again, I'm always here if you have any questions, if you want to say, if you want to have some say on something, or if you want a different type of content, if you don't want these comic books or the type of comic books I'm covering, let me know. If you want something different, if you want a commentary, if you want a Q&A, if you want whatever, just let me know. I'll do it. If you want whatever you might want, let me know, and I'll find the best time possibility for me to do it. But I love you guys, and stay frosty, stay Christmassy. I don't know. Stay frosty. There you go. Stay frosty.